From Here to the Stars. I am your host, Stephen Euin Cobb. Our guest today is Dr. Nick Rao, a child and adolescent psychiatrist who specializes in working with critically and chronically ill children. He's also a member of the Tennessee Valley Interstellar Workshop.
I'm interviewing Nick Rao. Let's see. Your background is you're a medical doctor. He's working with children. Do you believe that interstellar travel is impossible, inevitable, or somewhere in between?
Definitely see it as inevitable. Our challenges at this point are really just ones of scale. Mm-hmm. We could honestly mount a mission to another star right now with enough money. So I see it as inevitable.
Okay. How do you feel about the time and the distance involved? Because there's the energies, you can either use a lot of energy or a lot of time.
Right.
Or maybe a mixture of both, really. But still, what's your take on that?
So I think if we're talking about anything in the near term, we really are looking at long time solutions rather than high energy solutions. Whether we're talking about nuclear rockets or solar sails, 0.1 C, about 1/10 the speed of light, seems to be about the max we can expect. Mm-hmm. And then you got deceleration time. So if we talk about missions to the nearest stars, we're looking at 100 to 150 years. Mm-hmm. And even if we could create more energy, we don't have a great way to turn it into propulsion.
Mm-hmm. That kind of time limit, those long times, baselines, indicates like a colony ship or a ship with people living out the daily life in it.
Right.
Yeah. We mentioned earlier, we were talking earlier about colony ships and hibernation.
Right.
And what's your thought on the ability of hibernation?
So, to be clear, I'm really, really down on stasis. It turns out when you freeze a body, lots of nasty things happen to the cells, like little ice crystals tearing through the cell walls. Mm-hmm. So the idea that we can be put in a stasis where we don't age a day and then we're woken up tomorrow is definitely still in the realm of science fiction. There's no clear mechanism by which that would happen. On the other hand, hibernation, I think, is more achievable now than ever, in part because actually very complex vertebrates do it. In particular, bears are one that can be 90% effective during their hibernation period. Mm-hmm. So these are animals with intelligences, IQs that are actually measurable on an IQ scale. They are large like us, and they come out of it still with intact skills, intact memories, intact brains. Mm-hmm. And so this, to me, I think is a great model for hibernation. It's a great model to figure out what's happening, what hormonal triggers are going on, what genes are being turned on and off, and then how can we actually apply this to humans? Is this a matter of a drug cocktail to hit the right cellular switches, or do we actually need to look at gene editing to insert the right switches so that we can turn them on and off? Mm-hmm. But CRISPR-Cas9 has brought that kind of talk closer to reality than ever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. We also mentioned the weaponization problem.
Right.
Many nations are nervous about anything in space that could be at least potentially a weapon.
Right.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, like I was saying before, I think people are always going to object to anything that they see as a show of force. It doesn't matter whether that force is peaceful or not. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, we can already destroy the world 1,000 times over. 1,001 doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I interviewed a few years ago Professor Lugoff, and he was talking about these little tiny 1 gram space probes that would be propelled with by pointing a laser array at it and running it up to about 1/4 of the speed of light, and sending. It would be accelerated for 10 minutes, and he would do one and then another, and until he had thousands traveling to different directions, different stars,
right?
As flyby probes. What's your take on that?
I think that sounds exciting. I think the more data we get from other solar systems, the better. And microsatellites are already making a difference here, just in Earth and Earth orbit, where we're seeing that these cheap to deploy multivariate satellites are actually more effective in some ways than much larger satellites, at least here on this planet. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a great idea and complementary to colonization.
Okay. What about telescopes? Why are telescopes not enough? Why is it not enough just to look at the night sky and see these distant planets?
Well, I'm looking at that mountain right outside this hotel room right now.
Lookout Mountain, yes.
Yeah, why is it not enough to just look at a mountain rather than climb it? I mean, you gotta it's different to experience something than to just look at it. And I think that's humans. We are the most widespread species on Earth. We have never found an area that we weren't willing to explore. This is who we are. It's part of why we've been successful as a species. And who knows, maybe that was the difference between us and the Neanderthals. Maybe we just like to move around a little bit more.
Oh, okay. So yeah. What is your long-term view? Do you anticipate eventually we'll maybe 100-star systems will explore and occupy and colonize?
So I think it depends on our timeline. I think, like I said, humans are going to explore. If you think about the Polynesians, they would literally just get into a boat and start sailing away with no idea if they were going to find a new island or not, right? So, yeah, on long enough timescales, assuming we don't annihilate ourselves in nuclear war, I imagine will be hundreds and thousands of stars. Any place we can get to, any place we can build a home on, or even a ramshackle, tenuous artificial habitat, I think we will try to colonize. In the short term, when you think about the timescales involved and the huge outlays and capital costs, I don't see us getting more than one or two in the next few hundred years, unless there is a major change in the time function of that equation.
What about Mars? Oh, there's a lot of talk these days about going to Mars. Do you think of Mars as a precursor or a practice run for interstellar colonization?
I think the issues are actually quite different, other than the inherent issues of space travel. I think that we are likely to end up on Mars in the process of colonization, but I don't know that there's any sort of one-to-one correlation. The only thing Mars really offers over Earth that could benefit us in that process is the lower gravity, which if we're not able to do orbital assembly of starships, it would be nice to assemble it in the lower gravity Mars.
Yeah, my take on Mars is kind of, if you build a colony there, you're actually building a spaceship on the ground.
Right. Exactly.
And if it's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. What is your take on the Kepler telescope? It's discovered over 3,000 planets around other stars.
I think the Kepler telescope has done us an amazing service of showing just how common Earth-like planets are. But it's also done a great job of showing just how weird and odd the very different solar system conformations can be. One thing about humans is, while we are incredibly adaptable and incredibly flexible, we're also very stubborn. So once we decide this is how things are, we get kind of stuck on. But Kepler has said to us, hey, an Earth-like planet can live here. A non-Earth-like planet was here, and we weren't expecting any planet at all. So what Kepler has really done for us is forced us to consider a much wider range of possibilities than a sun-type star and an Earth-like Earth, you know.
Okay. Let's see. What part of your field of work or research you think will play some role in achieving this interstellar colonization?
Right. So my personal work is actually nothing related to things like hibernation or closed system ecology. Unfortunately, I'm a psychiatrist. But why I think that will matter is because there will never have been such a closed off group of people from everyone else for so long. There will be psychopathology, there will be social troubles, there will be things that have to be dealt with and get messy. Just think about the personalities involved in the space program. And these were people that got to walk away and go home at the end of the day, or at least at the end of the mission. Imagine that multiplied 1,000-fold. So I think thinking about the psychology of a situation, of a system, and how even the organization of a structure can encourage or discourage psychopathology is, I think, going to be a real key player in making sure things are stable. Because I guarantee you, even if the technology is perfect, humans will find a way to destroy themselves if given half a chance.
Okay. That does not bode well. Okay. Let's see. Do you believe that the psychology will be the hardest thing to overcome?
I think in the short term, no. I think that first generation of people you have jumping on that ship for 5 or 10 years, I think they're going to do great because they're going to be so mission focused. And so looking forward to what's to come. But you start talking about 15, 20 years in, when everything I gave up starts to sit a little bit heavier in my mind, or even my second generation, my kids, or even my coworkers' kids, and they're looking and, oh, God, the captain's daughter gets away with everything, and I don't get it. I'm the engine man's kid, but I'm actually smarter than her. Like, you can see the messes start to come.
Yeah.
So I think actually these societies will, even if we get the technological challenges perfect, will have a very high chance of essentially combusting from the inside. And that's why I think it may not be the biggest, but it's going to be one of those crucial.
Okay. Which kind of pushes toward hibernation all the more.
Right, right,
If your mind is not active, you can't make trouble.
right. But then you're going to have a small colony. You know, at some point you're going to deal with this closed system, which actually humanity has never had. If someone got pissed off enough, they could leave their group and find another one or not. They could become a hermit. Like history is littered with that. We are going to create a population that cannot leave their group, where no one can be kicked out because that's a death sentence. So the cohesiveness that we are asking these people to have is nothing short of saintly, and it will come up at some point.
Okay. What do you think about carrying maybe frozen embryos and stuff so that you have a wider gene pool of the founding of the colony once you get to, the planet?
So I think genetic variation can be handled a number of different ways. The challenge with the artificial womb, which we're actually getting pretty successful with, they are now getting pigs and sheep up to about the middle of the second, end of the second trimester equivalent. So artificial womb technology is definitely developing, but actually the whole process of an embryo in pregnancy it's a dynamic interplay between a mother and a child with partially shared genetics. And so there's a lot of factors we still don't understand there beyond just making sure an embryo matures. Frozen embryos are a great idea, but you're looking at surrogacy then, and that raises, I think, some serious ethical questions about what we might be requiring of female crew members. That said, it actually doesn't necessarily take a ton of people to maintain good genetic diversity, particularly if they are kind of taken across ethnicities. Doesn't necessarily take more than about 40 or 80 people to provide decent founder stock.
Okay, I was thinking bigger numbers, maybe 1,000 or even 5,000.
Yeah, don't necessarily need that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good news. Okay.
Well, and especially if you think about it, these are going to be people drawn from all over the world, right? So this isn't 40 or 80 people who've been from the same region forever, which is what we think about with founder stocks and inbreeding problems in humans. They've already been correlated before they got chopped down to 40 people.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. What about the, I guess you could say the ethics of going to an Earth-like planet, which presumably is Earth-like because it's got some amount of life, some amount of maybe just bacterial life.
Right.
But to build up the atmosphere, what's your feelings about that?
I mean, as someone with environmental protection very close to his heart, I think it's probably the most complicated fact of this whole thing, is sort of what level of ecological development do we consider acceptable loss? Because chances are we will outcompete those native species and extinct an entire ecosystem. So are we okay with cyanobacteria level, which is all we need to get to high oxygen content? How do we feel about when there's plants? What about if there's something like fish evolved? What about if there's actual social animals? Would we be willing to land on a planet knowing we stand a very good likelihood of wiping out animals that are as smart and complicated as a dog?
Okay. I think most people would be okay with bacteria, but you get the fish, and some people would be okay, and some people would not. And you get the dogs, and now you're in dangerous territory,
right?
Because people love dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything fluffy and cute.
Yeah, I mean, once you can look at an animal that's intelligent and look it in the eye and say, I want to extinctify you because I don't feel like flying to the next planet a few more light years away, I think that's where people are going to balk.
And some people will look at them as the now, but others will look at them as the future. 1,000,000 years, 100 million years, are these going to be intelligent creatures?
Exactly.
Civilized intelligent creatures. Then, that becomes massive can of worms. But if you're looking at bacteria, give them 5 billion years. You could be wiping out a civilization.
Right.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on the Fermi paradox? Intelligent life in the universe, we haven't found it. It's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Because we've looked in so many different directions so far, but there's nothing.
So what I'd say is it's a big universe and we haven't been looking that long.
Okay.
If you think about humans, we are a brief speck in the eye of history. We've been around for 150,000 years. We've only been wearing pants for 10,000 years of that. And we've been looking at the skies for 60 years using modern radio telescoping. We just haven't been doing this long.
All right. Okay.
So if that alien civilization is 100 light years away, of course we haven't heard it yet. because the message hadn't even gotten to them.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So to me, I don't see much of a paradox. I just see our vanishingly tiny evolutionary history.
Okay. Do you see the main benefit as eliminating the possibility of human extinction?
I think,
Or are there other benefits you're thinking of?
yeah, I think that is by far the main benefit. We're not exactly doing a great job with managing this planet. And I hope we don't just turn into locusts, and I'm going to silence my politically incorrect joke there about, never mind. But I hope we don't turn into locusts, denuding one planet after another, because I think there's a very good argument that we have basically behaved like an invasive species in our own ecology.
Echo matrix, yeah.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I think that is the primary benefit, so we don't go extinct. I think the other benefit is that when we make a world larger like that, we behave differently. We have consistently seen that when humans grow their scope and their understanding, their connectedness, that yes, unfortunately, things do come along with that, like the atomic bomb, but also things come with increased connectedness, increased looking to the future, and more sort of long-term projects and thinking. Yes, it's terrible what we're doing to the environment, right? But with a couple of cultural exceptions, we are the first generation that's ever said, what are we doing to the environment?
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So I think expanding our perspective like that is only just going to expand our ability to care for ourselves and each other.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. I want to ask you a negative one and then a positive one. Don't include this in the idea. But what technologies have been proposed for interstellar colonization that you don't think are going to fly? That maybe it's a dead end.
Well, the EM drive for one.
Okay.
I actually really like solar sails. I think that they are so cheap and so effective. They're hard not to look at least for slow sailing ships. Nuclear drive, I think, is complicated because you end up with the same problem you have with rockets. You still need a ton of fuel to get anywhere. Laser propulsion, I think its main role is that it's going to dramatically decrease the burden of breaking gravity wells.
And you're talking about the propulsive lasers being off the ship,
Right?
not included as part of the ship.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, that wasn't as negative as I thought. Let's see. What do we got? What obstacles do you think will be the easiest to overcome?
I think the easiest obstacle, believe it or not, is going to be finding the money to actually pay for one of these projects. As Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are privy to us every day, if you get the rich people excited, then money will go. And so I think actually as stuff starts to coalesce behind possible technologies to move forward, we're going to start to see more and more venture capital come towards it, and not necessarily because they're expecting profit, but because they're rich guys who have nothing better to do, and it'll make them feel really good about themselves to have done this.
Okay. Okay.
So, I mean, Paul Allen funded a lot of really cool projects.
Yeah.
And he didn't even necessarily ask for publicity or profit. He just had fun doing it. So I think we'll see a lot of that.
Okay. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you'd like to cover?
No, I think we've covered most everything I can think of.
Thank you. It was an excellent interview. I enjoyed it.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
That was Dr. Nick Rao. This has been From Here to the Stars, a video series created by the Tennessee Valley Interstellar Workshop. The TVIW is a non-profit organization dedicated to thoroughly exploring the science and engineering that can eventually open up the reality of interstellar travel. I have been your host, Stephen Euin Cobb. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, and you can subscribe to our channel for other such videos. On behalf of all of us here at the Tennessee Valley Interstellar Workshop, I thank you.